Welcome to Thursday Thoughts here on SDH. It's a packed show, and that's why we're 5 minutes early. I know it kind of throws everything off. It literally threw like breakfast off, getting everything squared away, all of it. But that's how packed we are this morning. Campbell Chapman, the head coach of Decatur FC, they had their media day yesterday, set to join us coming up here in just a little bit. Then at 20 minutes after the hour, it'll be Laurel Pfahler for our Oppo research, getting ready for FC Cincinnati and Atlanta United. So Laurel will be either on her way to practice or getting ready to go on her way to practice. Queen City Press, full disclosure, we're members. So that way we keep up with everything going on at FC Cincinnati, and Laurel's the one in charge of that. So we catch up with her getting ready for the matchup this weekend with FC Cincinnati coming to town to take on Atlanta United. Now, after that, then we get to kind of go through and see what it looks like with Open Cup, because at 9:30, you're going to get your matchups and figure out what the round of 8 is going to look like. And so we'll take you through that to wrap up hour number 1. Hour number 2 is our traditional tour of the planet with our buddy Nino Torres from GOLTV. It's probably going to be some Portugal, some Europe, some Libertadores, some South America. But like I said, every time he visits, I don't look at the rundown until he wanders in the door. So we all learn together about what's going on around the planet when it comes to our buddy Nino Torres. And then last half hour of the show, it's our buddy Niko Moreno from Sounder at Heart and from Pulso Sports. And we'll take care of Major League Soccer from the Pacific perspective, starting off with what it looks like over on the western side of the planet with LAG, maybe a little St. Louis, obviously some Seattle. We'll get into all of that. Look at the weekend that was, get you ready for the weekend that will be. And then when we come back on next Thursday, it'll literally be looking at what happened Wednesday night, the late night there, getting you ready for the weekend and all of the rush that's all attached to that. So that is the rundown for the morning. And so it's a lot of stuff, as the kids say. So looking forward to finding out about everything going on. Like I said, Decatur SC had their media day yesterday. Maddie and Jason were there for that. You can catch up on the SDH socials about all of that and what it was like to see what's going on. Last night, thanks to our friends over at the Moxie Hotel in beautiful Midtown, and it was our first visit there this year, and it was great to catch up with DJ EU, catch up with the Hoff, see everybody that was there last night. But like I said, it was our first visit there this year, and it was great to start that off and running, as we always are want to do, and going out into the community. So SDH Network at the Moxie Hotel, the audio of that hour-long party on the dinner hour that should be coming up, that'll be up on the network in a little bit. And so we talked about a lot of different things. You know, we caught up with DJ EU, and I was fascinated in learning from EU about his about how much music he has that is, and where is it, how much music does he have stored. And apparently it's like 2 terabyte drives worth of music that he's constantly taking in and working through and all those kinds of things. So it was a great education for me to learn out about DJ EU and how he tackles all of his match days, and how he became the in-house DJ for Atlanta United during Atlanta United match days. And so that was a cool conversation. And then when we had the Hoff come in and kind of pull the curtain back for Maddie about the creative process for the two of us, and find out, you know, what it's like to, you know, have an idea for a promo or not have an idea for a promo. And then you wander in and it's like, oh, let's do that. And to have that kind of creative freedom and learn from the Hoff about his creative process, because it's not just on game days now. He gets to go out and shoot features and be a part of things on the social media side and the new media side for Atlanta United. So obviously very, very cool stuff there involving the Hoff. And then we brought in Jason to talk about FC Cincinnati a little bit, and to talk about the growth of high school, the growth of soccer in general, and specifically in the high school markets, because, you know, with all of the championships that were just recently decided, in the GHSA. It was an opportunity for a lot of us across the network to sit there and talk about places like Armurchie and Thomasville and AIS and Campbell of Smyrna and Lincoln County and a lot of the places off the beaten track, Lake Oconee Academy, Tattnall County, all of those places that you get to learn about during a season. And for us, and Hazelhurst, Jeff Davis as another example, it was an opportunity for us to learn this season about how the game is growing in the sport in the state of Georgia and how the sport is growing in those non-traditional markets that we talk about. So no, it was a fun conversation with Jason about a bunch of different topics and a bunch of different topics that were coming across the table with the Hoff and with me and with Maddie and with Jason and with DJEU. So that conversation will be released pretty much in short order, and we'll have that conversation available to you. So set your notifications to when we have that kind of stuff released. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I guess I should have like the QR code or something pop up. Maybe that would be beneficial. So there you go. That's your QR code. Actually, let me see. Now I've got like 19 different things up and it gets all messy. So there you go. There's your QR code. Hit that QR code and you start your day by going to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You get into Kickoff Coffee, buy out the store, but you can do it at 15% off because what you can do is use the code Soccer Down Here 15 at checkout. Then you get a 15% discount on everything that you bought going in. Then in turn, they take 10% off, and then they end up and taking 10% and taking it to causes that they have earmarked as cool. So that's Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So yes, then you have the Spurs contingent that is in here this morning. Obviously, Ange in year 2, he wins things. So he won something yesterday. And obviously, there are other shows that make a point to try to sit there and go, well, what about Ruben Amorim? Well, what about him? Does he stay? Does he stay? What do they do? What does Manchester United do? Well, I'll tell you. They really can't. They really can't. What could it's like, look, people, just focus. Just focus, people. Legitimately, okay, we're going to have to do some guest flipping here. Let's see. So I'm going to try and do like two things at once. Everybody's focused on Ruben Amorim. And look, seriously, look, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, they have they've got their budget, and Ruben Amorim is working within that budget. Ruben Amorim has that budget that he's trying to play with, which ain't a whole lot. They're trying to chase after Mateus Cunha and go, $62.5 million release clause with Wolves. So what you're trying to do with Ruben Amorim is you've already handcuffed him, and people asking, well, since he didn't win Europa League, that was something of a personification. But I mean, look at the situation with Manchester United and calm down, people. Ruben Amorim has only been given so much to work with. And Spurs, I mean, Ange Postecoglou has been ished on so much. And we were talking about it yesterday. And legitimately, and I know that Badger and Katie are wanting to discuss the good side of Spurs. And you two might be the only two that are looking at the good side of Spurs right now because you ended up with a trophy. And the funky thing is, I mean, And this is so Campbell Chapman's going to flip with us, and so Coach Chapman's going to go at 9:40 because he's got like coaching and things he has to do. With Spurs specifically, with so much that Ange has had to work with, and I say that somewhat tongue in cheek, it would not surprise me. And you have to feel incredibly happy for Yeonmin Son, by the way, for getting for winning a trophy, and I believe he is the first ever South Korean national football player to end up with a trophy in a competition. But I would firmly anticipate the impatience of the front office at Spurs to result in the dismissal of Ange Postecoglou. And it is because of their own doing, but you can't convince the front office of that. You cannot convince Daniel Levy that it is because of the front office creating all of these issues that you're not giving Ange Postecoglou the tools to work with, yet he has worked with these tools, and you end up with a trophy by the end of it all. You end up winning Europa League, and you end up working your way in through, and it's frustrating because, when you don't give coaches the resources and they still persevere, then, of course, obviously, not succeeding more is obviously the coach's fault. Therefore, the coach has to go. It would not surprise me one bit if they, the post-mortem that you have, at the end of your review process. I mean, we all have the review process where, you go in and they sit there. It's like, needs improvement, plays well with others, like the old conduct, the grades that we got when we were in school, S, N's, and U's and things. Respects materials, listens well. Whatever that exit interview is for this year at Spurs for Ange Postecoglou, I firmly anticipate that the front office and the management structure at Spurs will have a conversation with Ange Postecoglou that will continue to be the first personification of the frustration of the fan base at Spurs. And it will be so, you sit there and you're rocking back and forth. It's just like, the individual behind the desk who's in charge of everything, they sit there, the folder's right there. They open the folder, they look at the sheets of paper, and you sit there and whoever the individual is that is in charge of the review, you open the folder, and they kind of look at the folder and they kind of take their index finger and they run through the piece. They run through like they're reading with their finger. It's like and they flip to the other side, and then they take their right hand and they go or maybe they do crossover, and then they close the folder up. So, how do you think you did this season? Whoever's on the other side of the desk, Ange Postecoglou walks into this large office space, or it might even be just like a conference room or something like that, and it's like the elongated glass office conference room space that we always talk about and have these nebulous meetings. The position of authorities at one end of the conference room, surrounded by a bunch of other individuals who are just there to kind of make the table look filled. And then Ange walks in. He sits down at the other end, and, it's like a 15-foot-long table. Whoever's at the other end sits there and looks at things and closes the folder. So, Mr. Postecoglou, how do you think you did this past season? And then before Ange would get the answer, the individual at the other end of the table sits there and goes, "We here at Spurs feel that you underachieved with the resources that we gave you." And the other individual at the other end of the table sits there and they go with that litany of things. Well, you didn't do this and you didn't do this, and we gave you this and you didn't do this, and you finished here in the Premier League, and so we're going to be $30 million less in revenue this year than we were last year because of the position we're finishing in this year in the Premier League table, even though, yes, you did win. You did focus on winning a trophy. we understand that. But at the end of the day, Mr. Postecoglou, we feel X, Y, and Z. It's that's what you stare at. That's what I anticipate going into this glass-walled conference room with like a bunch of suits and a dude at the other end of the table. What do you have, Mr. Postecoglou? What do you have to say about what you did this season? What do you feel like you accomplished this year with all of the resources that we gave you at Spurs? And what we didn't see was this large container, like this large box maybe, that was brought in, and like in a wheelie, like in a wheelbarrow or something, that was there off camera. And so Ange Postecoglou stands up, he goes over to the wheelbarrow, he grabs the box, and sets the box on the floor. You get the crowbar, you sit there and you pull the crowbar out, and you pull the hay out of the box and everything. And then, knowing full well what the meeting was going to be going into it, Ange Postecoglou sits there and pulls the hay out of the box, puts the top of the box off to the side. You hear it crash on the floor. Pulls out the Europa League trophy, puts it on the table, and walks out. And then the group of suits and the other individual at the other end of the table, whomever it is, said, well, that went better than we anticipated. Either that response or, oh, well, that didn't go well. Whichever self-fulfilling prophecy that the folks at the around the long conference table gave themselves going in. My gut tells me that that's what that end-of-year review meeting is going to be. Ange Postecoglou basically pulls the crowbar out of the box, shipped to, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, slams the Europa League trophy right there in front of every suit that's there at that table, and just walks out. Because it doesn't matter what he says. Does not matter one bit. Doesn't matter. Not one bit. The self-fulfilling prophecy of the Spurs front office, no matter which individual or individuals we are discussing here, they're going into Champions League. They get that Champions League money. They're still working this season on roughly a $30 million deficit when it came to anticipated revenue from the previous position because of how it's weighted in the Premier League. Think of it like $3 million a slot. So if you pictured yourself being 6th and you finished 16th, that's like $30 million less. But no, I firmly anticipate that that's how that meeting went at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, whenever it happens. I don't think it happened this morning because I'm sure everybody coming from Bilbao is probably still sleeping in. With all of the resources that Spurs sit there, they take their suits and they kind of puff out their blazers a little bit. With everything that we gave you, all the resources we gave you last year, how do you think you did? The whole tongue-in-cheek idea of the meeting. Literally, all Ange had to do sit there is crack open that box that got shipped from Bilbao or had its own seat on the plane, place it on the table, walk out. Because I'm fairly certain that he ain't getting renewed. That's just me. That's opening kickoff, and we'll probably talk about that more as we go here in hour number 2. But that's opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code. It'd be nice if I could actually remove the comment so you could see the full QR code. So there's your QR code. You start your day at Kickoff Coffee. You hit that QR code. Use the code Soccer down here, 15 on your way out the door. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into stuff that they've earmarked as cool at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, now it's time for opposition research. The poli-sci guy in me always just calls it oppo research. You feel like you do the finger pistols into the air? Time for oppo research, and we get to catch up with our friend Laurel Pfahler, Queen City Press. And Laurel, as I've told him, as you're practicing safe guesting on your way to practice, and we appreciate this. Full disclosure, Queen City Press, I subscribe just so I can stay up to date with what everything is going on, and that's why we consult you, our oracle, with everything FC Cincinnati. Good morning.
Well, thank you. And I am safe. I'm in a parking lot right now, so not driving.
Cool. Let me ask this going in: is Pat Noonan ever a happy man when it comes to discussing FC Cincinnati? It always seems like he's just kind of perpetually harumphing his way through a season when it comes to what his team does.
Yeah, we occasionally get a smile out of him, but and I've also found lately his responses seem really redundant. Like he keeps saying the same thing, like lack of composure, like it's just the same thing. I wonder if he just is tired of saying the same things, and maybe that's why he comes off as grumpy. But I mean, they're still obviously, top of the table, near the top of the table in the Eastern Conference, and they just still don't feel good about how they're playing. So it's like, well, what's it going to look like when they are playing well?
Mm-hmm. So break down hell is real, because I know he wasn't happy about that. He didn't feel like they were in a great deal of control. If you believe in XG, it was decidedly to the team from the other section of Ohio. Your takeaways from hell is real coming into this week?
Man, the first half looked exactly like you want to see a derby game. I mean, it was still lopsided as far as possession. Columbus Crew had 2/3 possession the whole game, but it didn't feel that way in the first half. It still felt like FC Cincinnati was, at least in Columbus half of the field and getting some chances. Obviously, they got the goal early in the 6th minute. Evander should not have told us that he was not passing. If anyone saw the highlights of that goal, he bicycle kicked it, and it looked like he was not even trying for the goal because he was angled toward the sideline. And so it went right to Denke, and he volleys it in for the goal. And I asked him, I said, did you see Kevin there? Like, you weren't shooting, right? And I heard him say, yeah, we were, yeah, I saw him in the box. And then it got really loud, and I couldn't hear his response until I listened back on my recorder. And he said, yeah, I was shooting. I was like, no, don't tell us that. But regardless, after that, it was still, I don't know if they just kind of took the pedal off the gas. When you're on the road in an emotional rivalry game, it was obviously their 3rd game in 8 days. So maybe some fatigue settled in, but second half, they took Obi Wobodo out because he was just coming back from injury, and the game just the midfield disappeared. The passing, even Evander, he passed to the ref at one point. Like, it just did not look good. And so Columbus had the ball and was just drilling it, and FC Cincinnati's attacking third, and yeah, it did not look good the second half.
So with all of this, Cincinnati still being at the toward the top of the standings in the Eastern Conference, I know this is where their expectation level is. How are they envisioning this road trip to Atlanta, where it's Atlanta is next to last in the Eastern Conference? What is the word on the street about this road trip to Atlanta from what you've been able to glean?
Well, I mean, they're never gonna look down on an opponent. And I think that they look back at the first matchup against Atlanta, and they were really frustrated with that game as well. I mean, they had a 2-1 lead going into it was like the 88th minute when Alvis Pell sticks his foot out on a cross, and it goes in for an own goal and ties the game. They don't like losing points at home. And so I think that does not sit well. Miles Robinson ended up not playing that game because he was sick last minute. And so right now and that game, both teams were missing tons of players for international duty and injuries and everything. So I think that they're more viewing this as a chance to really see how they stack up against Atlanta, because they just didn't feel like, they played their best game the first time around.
Last time out in Hell is Real, it was a back 5. It was Engel, Miles, Matt Miazga coming back from injury, Nicholas Haglund, and Luca Orejano. When you look at those 3 center backs, is that a point of concern or attention for the coaching staff, and possibly something that not just Atlanta but opponents down the line can look at that? Okay, it's like, okay, Miles might be a half a step slower. Miazga's coming back from injury. Haglund isn't what he used to be. Are folks looking down the middle of the attack going up against FC Cincinnati, or is there enough protection around those three center backs that there is not as much of a cause for concern when it comes to the defense in that back line for FCC?
I would say actually the center back group is looking a lot better right now. Nick Haglund did not have I would say his last two games were probably not his best too. But he came back and people wondered what they did to him during his rehab because like, did they give him some kind of magic potion or something? He has been actually probably playing some of his best soccer. Now, I don't know if the last two games is kind of a sign that he's been playing too much too quickly and maybe he's fatiguing or wearing down. But Miles, I still think he's been solid for them. I think part of his problem is they keep moving him around when guys have been hurt or missing. I think he does best on that right side. And they've had to use him some on the left a little bit, depending on matchups. Matt Miazga, I think he's starting to look a little bit more like himself. Like, and hell is real. I don't know if it was just the emotions of a rivalry game. Like, we saw him like going in hard for some tackles. Like, he started looking more comfortable. So, and right now they do have depth. They've got everyone available. So, I think the big thing is with Obi Wobodo being back, he always provides cover for the center backs. So, I think defensively they actually feel pretty good right now. They've just got to get their $30 million attack producing more goals.
I was going to ask about Wobodo, considering that I think that he's got the new contract, everything, the extension is there, everything's all happy in the Wobodo household. When you look at that midfield, and I'll pull Evander off to the side a little bit because I want to talk about that offense and the $30 million folks. But when you look at the midfield folks that are providing that cover and helping out in the midfield, for folks who haven't been able to see FC Cincinnati, you're talking about Buka, you're talking about Wobodo, you're talking about Evander helping out defensively and everything coming from the back. When you look at the midfield for FC Cincinnati, how key is it to the success, the overall success on a game-by-game basis?
I would say it's been changing a lot because they have had injuries, but I would say Pavel Buka has actually kind of proven to be the key this year in the midfield. As much as we like Obi, and it looks a lot different when he's in there versus his backup, Brian Anunga. Anunga's been doing really well defensively, but I mean, every pass that he makes is backward or lateral. Obi at least progresses the ball, and it just looks different when he's in there. But Pavel Buka I think he's having a breakout year. He had a concussion maybe a month ago, and came back and had a couple bad games since then, but I don't think it was anything to do with the concussion. I think it's just that they have been relying a lot on him and just quietly having a breakout season for himself. He's kind of that guy linking. I think he's taken on a bigger role this year because Evander just doesn't play the way Lucho did. Evander doesn't come back as much, I would say, as Lucho did. And so Pavel really has to be that guy moving the ball into the attack. And he's been really key to that.
For those that are here in the southeastern United States, we do remember Brian Anunga from his time both in Charleston with the Battery and USL Championship. And he's as he's been working his way north when it comes to Major League Soccer, where there are times where, Brian Anunga is that little ball of hate. He seems to be the walking yellow card at times. And much like Matt, you can kind of tune the engine up and have it run a little hot. And he might be in those positions where if he's not passing the ball sideways or backward, he's going to be the guy that's going to go in almost too physically for a tackle, and that you can kind of push his buttons a little bit. So I understand what you're saying there, where Buka seems to be the more desired of the two when it comes to comparing Buka and Brian Anunga. So when you look at Pavel's game, obviously everything that he brings to the table is key. Who else are you looking at? Who else is in your spot shadow for the success in the overall for FC Cincinnati on a game day from defensive storylines before we get to talking about this offense?
I would say probably Lucas Engel, their left wing back. He is their first left wing back in a while that actually plays defense. They've traditionally, well, since Alvaro Barrial, basically in, I guess, 2022, they moved him back to, he was a winger, and they turned him into a left wing back. And then they kind of did the same with Luca Orellana. When he came last year, he was their left wing back. Then he ended up switching to the right, moving kind of all over, and it was Yamil Assad. But it's all been attackers that don't really play defense. And so Lucas Engel, he's on loan from Middlesbrough, and he is actually a really good defender. I think he's been quietly pretty key on that left side. And now they just need to get, like, early in the season, he was bringing a lot to the attack too, showing that he could cross the ball in and give them kind of something they didn't really cross the ball much in the past. That was kind of, they had it coming from the center backs, but not those wing backs. And he's been a little inconsistent in that. Maybe seems like he's getting a little bit of that back. But early in the season, it looked really good. So he's just got to find that consistency. But I think defensively, he's been helping out a lot in that regard.
Laurel Pfahler, Queen City Press, dropping by for our opposition research segment as we get ready for Atlanta United and FCC coming up this weekend. All right, let's talk offense, because I know that a lot of folks like to sit there and say, I want to talk about what's going on to put the ball in the back of the net. When you look at what Kevin Denke has been able to do, Sergi Santos and Evander, when you look at those three, what stands out for someone who hasn't had the chance to see them outside of that one matchup at TQL that was the 2-2 draw? What has stood out with those three this year?
Well, Sergio Santos is the guy that you didn't really expect to be starting much, and he's been having to play a pretty significant role. Luca Orellana started out playing in that front three with Denke and Evander, and now they've got Orellana playing more as a wingback. So the attack is still kind of evolving. Obviously, Evander and Denke, they've been scoring goals. I would say I've been telling everyone kind of at the beginning of the year, it was a lot of Kevin Denke doing his thing, Evander doing his thing, but you weren't really seeing them work off each other. It was kind of just them having really great moments on their own. Obviously having help from teammates, but you didn't see them like connecting a lot. And so now you're starting to see them, which I wish that, it would even be a better storyline if Evander didn't say, I was shooting that bicycle kick instead of passing it, because that started to be the storyline after the game. Everyone's like even I said, wow, beginning of the year, there's no way Evander makes that pass to Denke. He's shooting that. And so I turned out to be, that's still he was shooting. But now, but they are still, I think they are, aside from that, like they are kind of finding each other a little bit more. And it's just taking some time for them to actually gel together. And then, they're just trying to figure out that other forward spot, because it does seem now like they like Orellana as a wingback. They also have Dado Valenzuela. He's a young, he's maybe 20. I can't remember how old he is.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been around forever, but not. He's actually having a really good year. He and Evander actually have a pretty good connection. So I actually would not be surprised to see Dado maybe playing up top with Denke on Sunday, especially since he didn't play at all in Hell is Real. He played a lot of minutes at Toronto on last Wednesday. So, but he's looked pretty good. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it, just with having midweek games again coming up after this Atlanta game. So, I guess it's still, I guess the best way to answer your question is just that they are still evolving on attack.
Yeah, we got the chance to see Valenzuela since I want to say it was almost like he was a 12-year-old. With all the time that we spend with Atlanta United 2 and seeing FC Cincinnati 2, we feel like we've seen Valenzuela forever, and he has been one of those imposing physical presences in MLS Next Pro or what have you for FC Cincinnati 2. So we've had our fill with Dado Valenzuela. Trust me, we know what he can bring to the table. Two other names I wanted to break down with you offensively, a Yuya Kubo update, and then the signing of Kai Kamara, which I thought was really interesting. Bringing, Kai to go a spot starter. You need that fifth guy to give you 5 innings and maybe give up a run or something before you go to the bullpen. What's Yuya Kubo update, please, and then the signing of Kai Kamara.
I don't know what's going on with Kubo. He was not in training yesterday. He's been back a few games now from his hamstring injury. I thought he came out of Saturday's game okay, but maybe it's just an extra recovery day because sometimes when you have guys coming back from injury and they start playing their minutes, they just need an extra day. So I guess I'll find out today if he's back. But I would say he's still trying to find his rhythm regardless. Like, he just hasn't looked the same. I don't know. I tried to ask him if he had any regrets because he was one of the players that didn't show up for preseason. He got there the last week, like a few days before the last preseason game, and then jumped right in. Like, he had been working on his own, so he was in shape, but he jumped right in. And I just kind of wonder, not having that, full base with his team in preseason, if that kind of impacted him. But he said he didn't think it did. We'll see. But he's not quite where he was last year, I would say. And then, Kai Kamara, I love that addition. Like, just from a media standpoint, he seems great. He's very honest about, like, he said he wants to play till he's 45. So he knows he's not going to be starting every game. He'll, kind of be that guy that comes in late and gives them an aerial threat that they didn't really have, which, going back to them trying to cross the ball more, they need a guy like Kai to finish those off. So I think that he's proven he can still score in this league. He's been doing it forever, and I think he's going to be a fun addition.
One other name that I wanted to discuss kind of briefly here was DeAndre Yedlin. Wanted to see the update there. Obviously, didn't get the start in Hell is Real. You mentioned Orellana at right back, Lucas Engel at left back, with the 3 center backs there. What's up with DeAndre Yedlin these days?
Yeah, I mean, he's still gonna rotate in, I think, especially when they have all these games coming up. I don't think he's lost his starting job. They're just trying to figure out. He is a guy that they have to manage a little bit more. He can't play 90 minutes all the time anymore. And so if they can rotate him and Luca Orellana feels more comfortable in that right wing back spot, I don't know. We could still see him moving back to forward or as a second attacking midfielder alongside Evander, because they still love DeAndre. Like, he still provides a lot to the team. He's a good leader. He's kind of a calming presence for them. Still, I think he's still solid defensively for them, which Orellana doesn't play much defense. So if they feel like they need that defender, they'll still go to DeAndre and figure out. I guess it's a good problem to have, just trying to figure out where to put all these pieces. And he can play center back if they need him. I don't really like him back there. He gets picked on, I think, because he's not tall. Like, they like their center back. So, he'll still be in the picture. I don't know if he's starting Sunday or what it'll look like between him and Orellana moving forward, but I do expect him still getting opportunities.
All right, cut the promo for folks that need to know everything they need to know about what you're doing up there in Cincinnati as we keep up to date with everything going on in Cincinnati. Tell everybody about what you're doing these days.
Yeah, I'm on Patreon, so content creator platform that I use for my subscriptions. And there are free trials if any Atlanta fans just want to kind of check more on the competition. You can just sign up for a free trial at patreon.com/Queen City Press. I'm on Twitter, Blue Sky. I still call it Twitter. I don't like calling it X.
Right there with you.
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Threads, but I don't use it much. So, feel free to reach out anytime.
Yeah, right there with you on all of the above. As always, Laurel, great to catch up with you about everything going on up there at FC Cincinnati. And obviously with what's going on this weekend, we felt like we need to reach out. So go to practice, gather more intel, and we will continue to read as we get ready for Sunday Night Soccer. As always, great to see you, and don't be a stranger. Come back anytime.
Thank you. Always happy to join you.
All right, that's Laurel Pfahler. And so Laurel's going to practice. All right, and so now we do the hot tag. Decatur FC had their media day yesterday. and Maddie and Jason were there, and they got to see what's going on, player announcements and all that kind of stuff. And so now with the opener coming up this weekend against Union 10, we catch up with the head coach of Decatur FC, Campbell Chapman. Coach is dropping in. So what's the word, Coach? Oh!
No, we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it. Obviously, it's scary how quickly it comes around. It was a year ago. So, but no, I think we're all prepared and we're all ready to have a good showing again this year.
What was the biggest lesson last year, you think?
Hang on.
What do you think the biggest lesson that you learned last year was with Decatur FC, you think?
You already done?
There we go.
It's froze.
Campbell, really quick.
The beauty of live TV. Coach, you got your ears on. Coach, can you hear me? Campbell Chapman, the head coach of Decatur FC, just navigating, trying to find a trying to catch up with us. I think he's in his backyard now. It might be his backyard. So, Coach, can you hear me? I can hear you. Let's see if we can try it again. So we'll see what's up with Coach Campbell Chapman as he gets ready. So let's find out what's going on here. Let's see if he can see what's going on. And there we go. Where are you?
I don't know what happened there, mate.
It's all. I don't either. It's all good. Biggest lesson that you think you learned last year with Decatur FC on the field and off the field would have been what?
I don't really know. There was a lot of good things. I can't really think of anything we would have done. I mean, like any coach, I would have liked a little more time preparation-wise before we start the season. But at the end of the day, I think we were ready when the season started. I don't know, really, to be honest. I think we did everything right. And obviously, a lot of the time with the way we do things, you're sort of at the beck and call of the players that are available for the games. So maybe have a larger roster. I think if I could have done it a little bit differently.
When you're piecing something like this together and it is the sprint that it is, how much of a challenge is it to piece together this roster that you feel has to pretty much be ready to go and have some kind of harmony from absolute zero?
That's the toughest thing, because you really are hoping that players who commit to you in January and February are still going to be available in May, because obviously their schedules change. Summer classes can throw you off. With the college kids, you're always dependent on their schedule, hoping to fit with your schedule. So that's the most important thing, really, is hoping that they're going to be all be available when the season starts.
Campbell Chapman, the head coach of Decatur FC, hanging out with us as they get ready for their season opener tomorrow at Decatur High School, going up against Union 10, coming all the way up from Mobile to see what life is like in front of 2,000 to 2,500 folks. When you look at the response from the fan base and from the city of Decatur and all of that area, what was it like to see the area just pretty much embrace the club from the absolute beginning?
I think that's the one thing that was probably, when I say unique, but it is very different for most of the WPSL clubs we play for, that we do have a true fan base of the local community who bought into and supported the team. It's really, the city was fantastic early in embracing what we're trying to do. And then with with the staff, with Joel and the guys and Gareth supporting the city and reversing both things with the square and bringing people in. It was amazing. Like I said, I think that my biggest takeaway was when you saw a whole family walking up the street, all with Decatur FC shirts on, the mum and dad and the two kids walking up the street. It was very reminiscent of something back home in England.
So, for those that don't know your background, where in England did you get to see the entire family experience? What was your introduction to the game and all of that?
So I was a professional footballer in Europe for about 11 years before coming over to here. So, I played for Wolves, and so obviously going to the games as a player, and you see the fans, on the streets before the game, in the streets. You see that's part of the culture, and I think it's sort of passed down. The dad supports the team, and then the son supports the team, or the daughter supports the team, and their family supports it. And I really feel there's that sense of community here where this is their club. It's Decatur FC. It's their club.
When you look at the roster this year, for someone who hasn't had the chance to see how it's come together, who are some of the names that folks will gravitate toward here in the 25 season?
I think from front to back, I think Maggie Wadsworth has been a great pickup for us. Maggie was at Mississippi State and is going to be she's got 1 more year of eligibility, and I think she's making her decision. So Maggie up front scoring goals. We will have Nikki. I'm just trying to think else we've got. Sydney Thibodeau from Auburn, who's an attacking mid, will be good. And then at the back, we've still got Jasmine Ferguson and Najiri Butts and Micah Bryant, a strong athletic players. We've got a new goalkeeper, Nikki from Georgia, is going to be playing for us. We lost Jada; she's playing somewhere else this summer. And I think there's still the Carly Borgel, my daughter Emma, midfield players that are always on the ball and looking to keep it. Will always want to. The people will be excited to see them.
For you, when you look at the universities that are being represented here, it's not just the big SEC schools. Georgia Southern is represented. The University of North Georgia is a part of this roster. A lot of different locations and ties to the high school game here in the state of Georgia. What's it been like for you to see that it's not just the big schools that are represented, but all of those different pockets that you may not necessarily think of? Oh, soccer exists there, but it exists there, and it exists very, very well. What's it like to see the large towns and the soccer towns and the university towns come together like this?
Well, it's interesting you say that because as my my job at GSA, I coach the girls side and run the ECNL program, and we work every day with helping players through the process of making their decisions on where they're going to play in school. And it really boils down to now, honestly, with the way the transfer portal is and the movement of players, that the level of school or soccer or the size of the school is now becoming less important to the girls. It's more about the soccer experience and playing. And so when we pick up these girls in the summer, I'm looking for girls that have been playing a lot of minutes for whatever respective school they're playing for, and more importantly, are playing with a lot of confidence because it's such a short season. They got to be able to come in straight away and play, and more importantly, being able to play at home in front of a big crowd and not fear being in possession, not fear making mistakes. So where they come from, it's really not as important as what they're going to do when they get to us.
Campbell Chapman, the head coach of Decatur FC, getting ready for the home opener in the 2025 WPSL season. When you look at the WPSL and your conference that you are in and the rivalries that are going to be in there, what are you anticipating? Are you anticipating another knockdown, drag-out year in conference in the WPSL?
Yeah, I think with the team probably that everybody wants to beat. Obviously especially when we play at home, it's going to be a cup final for those teams coming in. Obviously not what they're used to playing in front of. We don't play in front of big crowds away from home, so I think it's going to be. I feel like every game's going to be a cup final. It's teams are local. A lot of the players know each other. There's going to be some friendly rivalry on the pitch. So I think every game will be a tight game. I don't expect anything like last year when we had some early season games where we were winning comfortably by playing against teams that weren't prepared for us. I think every single team will be prepared for us this year.
So this upcoming weekend when Union 10 comes to town, what are you looking for from the club in this first home match?
I think this is going to be we're treated very, seriously as a proper game, but I really am looking to give some players some experience to play in front of the home crowd. We'll play what we would feel would be our starting lineup at some point during the game, but it's really to give as many players the opportunity as possible to play.
And in a perfect world, for you offensively and defensively, stylistically, what can folks see and what can they anticipate from you when it comes to what Decatur FC is going to look like out there on the pitch?
Yeah, I thought last year we played some really good football. I thought last year we were a good team to watch. I know the fans enjoyed watching it. So it's going to be much of the same. We're going to try and possess the ball in the middle third. We're going to try and to get the ball into wide areas, get crosses in. We've got girls who are comfortable in the box, heading balls, attacking. At the back, we'll be steady and we'll try and play it through the lines and get the balls into our central midfield players so that they'll expect us to be in possession, I would hope, and sort of dictating how the game's played and then looking to score goals. I mean, we're going to attack.
No, nothing wrong with attack, especially.
No, I got no problem winning 5-4.
Bottom line is you get the win, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Yep.
Tomorrow night, Decatur High School, Decatur FC, Union 10 FC, 7 o'clock. Get your tickets. Get there early. Go to O'Sullivan's. Get the BLT because that's 9 different meals that you can have. That is my weakness. When I go to O'Sullivan's, literally I get the BLT and I'm like, I'm done for the day. It is that.
So you don't drink any Guinness?
No, I defer that to others. I am the designated driver for everybody. So I legitimately defer to everyone else. They can enjoy it. I'll make sure that everybody gets from point A to point B in one piece.
That's good. You can always hang out with me then.
Attaboy. So we will see you tomorrow. Our Drew Dickinson play-by-play. I'll be sitting in the booth making all kinds of noise with him as well. As always, Coach, don't be a stranger. We're going to look at what's going on with Decatur FC. Thanks for dropping by.
Anytime. Cheers.
There we go. Campbell Chapman, the head coach at Decatur FC. And so they're getting ready for their season opener. Once again, Decatur FC at Decatur High School against Union 10 FC. That is at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And Drew Dickinson and I will have the call for you. So as you go to the WPSL and Decatur FC and how the WPSL outputs all of their matches, you'll be able to catch up with Drew and myself calling the game, Decatur FC, Union 10 FC. And so that's going to be it's going to be the fun part of the WPSL season. We're going to try and catch up with our friends at all of the other teams that are in this particular conference because it is going to be a heavy duty slugfest. We caught up with Marion Butler the other day here on the network to find out what's going on with Chattanooga. We've also reached out to UFA and AFC, and like I said, we'll catch up with Impact next week. And I think Impact has. They've got their watch along tomorrow from 6 to 9 as they are on the road. I think they start their season at Chattanooga tomorrow. And so that's what you're getting out of the blocks. Robert Roddy and his group at Impact, they're not wasting any time. They're going straight up to Fort Finley to get their season started. So that's going to be a fun one. Like I said, Drew Dickinson and I will be on the call for the home match at Decatur, and we'll definitely give all of the voice that we can. And it was great last season to see 2,500, to see the home side, the press box side at Decatur High School full, and then folks getting really smart, especially like for the last couple of home games. And this season, it's going to end up being the same, where late June in Decatur, Georgia, it might be 90 degrees and matching humidity. So when the home side was full, what you saw was folks over on the visitor side, the bench side, over by the apartments. And folks would actually hide under the shade tree that is next to the scoreboard, and it would go into the stands over on the visitor side. That was a piece of thoughtful fandom where you ended up with folks that were hiding under the shade tree sitting, and they were probably the coolest of any of the audience that was there. So you have the 4 matches after Union. So it is this week with Union 10 FC coming up out of Mobile. UFA visits next Friday at 7 o'clock. Then June 6th, AFU comes to town. That's also at 7 o'clock. And then it's 2 weeks off with road tripping. And then June 20, the big matchup against Georgia Impact, and then on the 27th against Chattanooga FC. So Friday nights at Decatur High School in the WPSL season. So Union 10 FC this week. Next week it's UFA, the United Football Academy. June 6, AFU. June 20, Georgia Impact. June 27, Chattanooga FC. And looking at the roster and what I was, when I was catching up with Coach about, literally, here's what you have. The roster: Nikki Biden out of UGA, Katie Oakley from Southern. That's your keepers. Defenders: Jasmine Ferguson from LSU, Micah Bryant at South Carolina, Anaya Collier from UVA, Carly Oobs from Cincinnati, and Jerry Butts from the University of South Georgia Gainesville campus. Then, right now, listen, your midfield roster: Smith Cathy out of Georgia Southern, and Allie Plano from UNC Wilmington, Carly Borgelt from Georgia Southern, Emma Chapman from Georgia Southern. You might recall that last name with the gentleman that we just talked to. Mysoon El-Shami out of UNG. Your forwards: Kathleen Ngulafak out of Kentucky. We've covered her from the high school game. Maggie Wadsworth from Mississippi State, Molly Shearer from Ole Miss, Dylan Driver and Becky Contreras, both from Auburn, Sarah Greiner from the University of Coral Gables. That's your roster for this sprint that is there for Decatur FC as they get ready for everything. So while we were gone, it ended up as a note in a couple of different things before our buddy Nino Torres joins us. Luis Campos has extended his contract with PSG until 2030, and that was one of the early pieces of news that's come across. So let's take a peek at Open Cup and let you know what's going on there. We now have we should have the matchups that are ready for the next go round after what happened. Okay, great. So no upcoming schedule on the U.S. Soccer website. Okay, well, so much for that idea. So let's see if we can find what happened in the Open Cup while we were gone and while we were catching up with Laurel Pfahler and Campbell Chapman. So the round of 16. So round of 8, Austin gets San Jose either on the 8th or the 9th at PayPal Park. You have Philadelphia and Red Bulls at Subaru Park in the quarterfinals. And you've got the semifinal hosting priority in the West went to the Loons, Austin, San Jose, and Chicago Fire. Hosting priority for the final goes West-East. So the West winner is going to host Open Cup. West winner is going to host Open Cup. And so you ended up with that kind of chaos with the finals, with the final 8 draw. The East, DC, Philly, Red Bulls, Nashville. The West, the Loons, Austin, San Jose, and Chicago. The East, Philly hosting Red Bulls, Nashville hosting DC United. Semifinal hosting priority once again in the East, Philadelphia and Nashville 1-2. DC and Philadelphia, your 3 and your 4. The West, Minnesota United and Chicago Fire. San Jose hosting Austin. Once again, that's at Allianz and that's at PayPal Park. Your hosting priority, Minnesota, Austin, San Jose, Chicago. Hosting priority for the final goes to the Western Conference. So once again, Minnesota, Austin, San Jose, and Chicago would be the ones that you're staring at with all of those. So that's your rundown for the Open Cup. That's your rundown. Red Bulls at Philly, DC at Nashville, Chicago at Allianz, Austin at PayPal Park, July 8 or July 9. That is yet to be determined. So we'll see what that looks like with all of those. Coming up, obviously, next couple of minutes, it's going to be our buddy Nino Torres from GOLTV, and then it's going to be our rundown of everything going on in MLS and any place else with our buddy Niko Moreno from Pulso Sports and Sounder at Heart. So we'll say hi to everybody. Yeah, Catalucci, yes. Metal seats in the middle of summer. Bring cushions or bring towels, one of the two. So morning Catalucci, morning Lokeville, morning Badger, morning David, morning Katie Weaver. And thanks to all of you guys for being a part of things. But yes, I firmly anticipate in the conversation that we had in the first 20 minutes that it is going to be the meeting. Honestly, I would, if I was Ange Postecoglou and I knew that I was going to get canned, I literally would go into. I would take I would take the wheelbarrow in, or the dolly that has the box that has the Europa League trophy that got shipped to Spurs Stadium. How you still don't have a corporate sponsor is beyond me. You just take it in. You take it with the dolly. You take it into the room. All of those suits that we discussed are sitting around the rather long glass conference table. Put the dolly on the floor. Take the crowbar out. Pop the box. Take the hay, the packing hay and the straw. Put it everywhere. Then take the trophy, slam it on the table, and walk out. I wouldn't even wait for the Q&A. I mean, because I think we all know what's going to happen. I would be stunned if he ended up staying or was allowed to stay. Second season, he wins things. Just ask him. Guess what? Second season, he won something. Just slam it on the table, walk out, leave the dolly, leave the opened box that is slightly askew, and just walk out the door. And then probably go, he might go home. I heard Rangers is looking for a coach. How was that for irony? So you'd have all that. By the way, last night in the Open Cup, could someone please hit a PK? I mean, legitimately, could somebody please hit a PK? That's all I want. I mean, I don't think I'm asking for much. But, I mean, God. I'm legitimately 4-3 in PKs for Red Bulls in Dallas. 2-1 in PKs. By the way, Garrison Tubbs scored last night. 4-3 in PKs, Red Bulls beat Dallas. Garrison Tubbs scored the equalizer to get it to 2-2. 3-3 after added ET. 2-1 in PKs. 2-1. No one could hit a PK. No one could hit a PK off the side of a boat. Minnesota beat all caps 3-2. St. Louis had a lead and lost it. Nashville beat Orlando City 3-2. Philadelphia, no problem with the Hounds. You want to know what the problem is? The fact that you're the Hounds. I'm sure Bob Lilly yelled. I could see him yelling at marketing. The Hounds. Philadelphia, no problem with Pittsburgh 4-1. Austin 3-1 over Houston Dynamo. And then obviously the Fire over the Revs 3-1. And then San Jose in AET over Portland by the score of 1-0. And AJ Marcucci gets credit, full credit, for saving the Pedrinho penalty kick in the final round. 4-3 in PKs, but 2-1 in PKs. Are you serious? It was 2-0. Or it was David Schnegg scored for DC to make it 1-0. Charlotte scores twice in 3 minutes. Ajimong and Tuiloma, and then Garrison Tubbs scored. 2-1. 2-1 in PKs. That, to me, is inexcusable. That is absolutely inexcusable. How? I mean, 2-1 in 5 frames of PKs. You've got to be awful to do that. Awful. Horrendous. Oh, my God, bad. I'm going to bring in our buddy Nino Torres because we got to talk about this. We got to talk about PKs.
Oh yeah.
PKs to me are gimmies, man. It's like, look, just wander up to the ball, smash the daylights out of it, and have the keeper go chase. I mean, am I wrong?
Maybe.
Well, apparently last night in the Charlotte match in Open Cup. DC and Charlotte. Okay, so DC and Charlotte, they go to 90 minutes, it's 2-2. 120 minutes, it's 3-3. So you go to PKs in Open Cup. And so in PKs, literally, of the 10 shooters in PKs, you want to know how many of them converted?
2.
3. 3 out of 10 converted. How does this happen?
So hold on, was that an MLS or college?
Well, it was Open Cup. It was the U.S. Open Cup. So Open Cup, you had a chance to advance. I mean, Red Bulls in Dallas, at least it was 4-3 after 9, and so there was 10 in the 10th frame. It was a save. So you had 7 convert out of 10. You had the absolute reverse in that happen in Charlotte and DC United. Literally, if you add what happened with Charlotte and DC United to what happened with Red Bulls and FC Dallas, you had 10 out of 20. 3 converted in 10. 3. How does this happen? 3 out of 10.
That is ridiculous, man. Absolutely.
This is what I'm saying. It's 3 out of 10. 3.
And that's insane. That's insane. You know, that reminds me. I was just Googling who was the other opponent, because I remember it was Argentinos Juniors.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to tell you a wild story. You're talking about this story of 2-1 not converting. Well, I got a story for you. A penalty shootout for 44 penalties.
Wow.
44. The match ended 20-19.
Wow.
1989 Argentinos Junior versus Racing Club.
Wow.
That was back in the day. Yeah. 44 penalties, man. 44 penalties were taken.
Wow. 44. That's like keeper everybody coming up twice. I get that. I mean, that's the only way that happens, right? Keeper comes up twice. You get 22. Yeah. Everybody cycles through once or twice.
It was insane.
That is stupid. How do you everybody make? At least everybody's making it that one where,
I guess what happened right after, after that match, because they drew the penalties because they wanted to avoid, we don't want draws here. We don't want draws in the tournament. So they got the penalties. So after that, the next year, we're going back to regular points, brother. We're going back to, it was back in the day, it was 2 points for victory and 1 for a draw. Before everybody turned into the 3-point victory in 92, I think it was 92, 93, I think it was that year.
Oh, God. But no, it's like we were going over Open Cup, and we're down to the final 8 in Open Cup. But, just last night that you had a penalty kick shootout go 2-1 in 10. Literally 5 frames each, 5 shooters each, only 3 convert. You're banned from doing penalties ever again. You're not.
You're not taking, no, not you.
Not you. Both of these teams are banned if it gets to penalties in any situation in the Open Cup in the future involving Charlotte FC or DC United. You instantly lose because you're so bad at kicking penalties.
Maybe you can go back to the 90s when you took the penalty shot. You got to take it like the hockey style that they got in the MLS. Remember that?
See, now that's what you need to do. You need to go back to the old 25 or 35-yard sprint where you've got to get rid of it in 5 seconds. That to me, I would love for that to happen. Go back to the old sprint where you're having to race in and try to get it past the keeper before the clock hits 0. That to me would work. I would approve of that. That's what I would get into. I legitimately would enjoy that. So now that we have espoused the virtues of anything and everything, he's
still mad, Johnny.
Yes, I'm still mad. It's a gimme, dude. It's an absolute gimme. So you're properly getting caffeinated. All right. So what you have done? You've sent the list. I've yet to see the list until I've opened this document. So here we go. So topic number 1. Sporting Becampeao, the night last dance, and Pote the Great. Please explain, sir.
The Night King last dance. That's Victor Gyökeres potentially play his last game of the season and last game as a Sportingista in the tournament, racking up 87 goals in 101 appearances. 87 goals in 101 appearances for Sporting. Absolutely massive, Victor Gyökeres. But I mentioned these 2 names. Okay, it's Pochi, it's Pedro Gonzalez Pochi, and Victor Gyökeres, because if Pochi wouldn't got injured, Sporting would have won this tournament with 3 games on hand.
Oh, wow.
No doubt about it. But the guy was injured for like half of the season. And when he came back with 5 games left on the schedule, I was like, all right, this guy came back in the right time, and he's gonna make it happen for Sporting. Mm-hmm. The first couple of games he played only 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but in the last 3, he was on fire, an absolute fire. And he proved one more time how crucial Pochi is for Sporting. They're talking about it's going to be a massive offseason in Portugal, Johnny. It's going to be absolutely massive because Porto had to go into the market with, I don't know, they're going to get money, they're going to get a loan, they're going to get something, they're going to sell their souls to, I don't know what they're going to get, but they're going to need to get money in order to revamp this roster that is a lightweight. It's lightweight. Porto has a lightweight roster. Sporting will fight against all the bettors all the suitors for Victor Gyökeres already talking about the Arsenal, talking about Atletico Madrid, talking about all the big dogs coming in for Victor Gyökeres. But there is a plan for Victor to keep Victor in Sporting to win the repeat. All right, so it's not the plan hasn't. I got this insight from a guy who knows Sporting from the inside, and he told me that there is a plan to make all efforts possible to keep Victor in Sporting. If they keep the Night King, they will win the repeat. I have no question about it. No doubts that they will win it. But you know, when somebody comes in and it puts 200 million on the table, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. They don't know how to put 200. I don't know the Qataris, the Saudis, these guys that they can buy. I don't know whatever they want, but apparently not, because Di Maria got an offer to go to Saudi Arabia, and he rejected it, and he stayed in Benfica because he wanted to play for Benfica. But they put an insane number. He got the offer, right? He got a brutal offer, and he said no. And then he talked to his wife. What are you not doing? Okay, ask them for this X amount of money, which is double the offer that they got, right? Just ask him if they to see what they say, and they say yes to the astronomical number. Di Maria never disclosed the actual number, but he said there was an astronomical number he never seen in his life. Never seen that many zeros in one offer. But he said no. He said no, and stay in Benfica. But now Di Maria also said that he's gonna retire from Benfica. He's not gonna play for Liga Portugal in Benfica anymore. So we'll see where he goes. Maybe Leo is calling Miami. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, I'm thinking, because you've got the extraordinary window coming up in a couple of weeks where you can do things if you're engaged in the Club World Cup. Before and I know that Manchester United want, or Amorim. Let me rephrase. Victor Amorim wants Gyökeres, but they're also chasing after Mateus Cunha with a £62.5 million release clause. And Manchester United's going to have to sell before they can buy. And so that's why, if it's going to be anybody in the Premier League, I don't think that Manchester United is going to be that number one play, just because of the financial situation that they're in.
But who is going to sell? That's the question. Who they're selling? I don't know, but I don't think they're going to put 100 mil. That's the number that is. I don't think he's going to go for anything less than that. Even though when he is going to turn 27 this year, so maybe the number of 100 million is not going to be. I think he's going to go for less than that. I want to say 75, 80. That's a number because of his age. Because if he was 23,
yeah,
we're talking about 150.
Mm-hmm.
If
all
he
right,
was 23, we're talking about 150.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to pull a wild card. All right. News out of Real Madrid. Luka Modric confirms he's leaving at the end of the season. Quote, "The time has come, the moment I never wanted to come, but that's football, and in life everything has a beginning and an end. On Saturday, I will play my last match at the Santiago Bernabeu. Playing for Real Madrid changed my life as a football player and as a person. I'm proud to have been a part of one of the most successful eras of the best club in history." End quote. Luka Modric out the door at Real Madrid.
Right. It's about time, Luka. About time. This is he's a superb player, man. Just a superb player. He's one of the smartest players that I've seen play. I don't want to say in the history of the game, but that I've seen play. That soccer IQ and that velvety foot that he has, it's just unmatched. I love Luka, but he understands. He knows that the clock doesn't lie. The calendars don't pass for a reason, right? So he understands that he's not he's not Real Madrid caliber player right now.
Yep.
You know, he understands that everything comes to an end, and this is the end.
Yeah.
And this is way better to walk away on your own terms than they show you the back door. You know, this is nice decision for me.
No doubt. We talked about it a little bit in hour number 1, and it is your topic number 2.
Yeah.
One wild night in Bilbao, finally won, and Harry wasn't there. So we were talking about, and we have friends in the industry, and we have friends in the normal world where they have their end of the year review, and you go into like the room with the superior, the guy who's in charge of your future, and it's either like right across the desk from him in that really cramped office space, or you go into the long conference room with the long glass table, and there's like 9 people wearing the same suit, and the guy who makes the decision, who's already made the decision, at the end of the table. And Ange Postecoglou comes into the room, and he's down there at the end, and you've got the guy at the other end of the table, whoever it is, just kind of rocking back and forth, and opens a folder, closes a folder. So, Mr. Postecoglou, how do you think you did this season? There's always that guy. And so I said in hour number 1, I said, you know what Ange Postecoglou ought to do? Bring a big old box, bring a big old wooden box in on a dolly, slam the dolly down on the floor, grab a crowbar, pop the box open, the straw goes everywhere, and literally you just slam that trophy right there on the table and walk out of the room.
That's it. Booyah, baby. There you go. Enough said. 41 years, man. 41 years without winning a title is a long route. It's just so long, and it's so sad to me that Harry Kane wasn't there, man. It's so sad to me because but he gotta make a decision. Gotta make a decision. When the time came in, Bayer put the offer on the pitch, and then he said, "You know what? All right, I'm going. I'm going because I'm pretty confident and pretty certain that he got offers before to leave Tottenham, and he didn't. But then you got tired, and then you want to win. And he went to Bayern and he got his title. But I think this title has a piece of Harry too, just a little bit. I want to say just a little bit. Probably Heung-min Son give him a call or something. I'm telling you, he's it's not like he deserves this, right? But he's part of it in a way. Even when he's away, he's part of it, and that's why I put it like that, put it like Harry. But insane credit to Heung-min Son. This is a massive player, probably the best Korean player in the history. Yes, ahead of Pak Dok-ik. Yes, ahead of him. Yeah. For those who know who Pak Dok-ik is or was, he was the Korean that sent off Italy in 1966 in the World Cup. All right. That's what I got to say for Harry and Tottenham.
Yeah, and we have a Conference League final with Betis and Chelsea. Chelsea, obviously, the big favorite at a -130 in the juice boxes. And Betis is a +359. Your 90-minute draw is a +250. I'm looking at Chelsea. But we always know how troublesome it is to go up against clubs that are like a Real Betis. I'm still leaning Chelsea, though, in Conference League.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna take my chances on Betis. I'm gonna take my chances on Betis, and for one reason too, that there's in soccer, you get the second chances or you get the payback, so you get the revenge that you don't have in life sometimes, and that's the story of Anthony. All right, Anthony, he was, they pretty much shown like he was an amateur player when he went to United. And now he's got a renaissance in Betis, and he's going to take him to the title, and he's going to score the goal winner for this game Mark my words right there.
Okay.
Get some trust in Anthony. He's going to take.
We forgot to discuss the relegation battle in Portugal, where our buddies at Boa Vista, they didn't make it.
No.
They lose 3 of 4 out the door. Firenze goes down on head to head, and so now it's AFS who is at 5-12-17. Losers of 3 of 4 to go into the relegation fight. So AFS and Vizela.
Ooh.
Yep. And so that is, let's see, that is.
Let's go, man. More talk. Let's go.
So that is on Saturday at 2:45. AFS is favored slightly at a plus 147, draws a plus 2.25, and Vizela is a plus 181 to hop over AFS and go into the Liga Portugal next season.
We'll see if Memo Ochoa and AFS can get it done and stop the dominance of the teams coming from the second division, because they won all 5 playoff relegations in the last 5 seasons. So is this the one who changed the history? Is this the one that gets a little bit credit to Memo Ochoa to be the savior for AFS? We're about to find out. But I don't know. Vizela is a player that pretty strong season in the second division, and they just went down for 1 year. So they got a chance to immediately bounce back. And I got my doubts in there, Memo. I'm sorry, but I think you're gonna go down to the second division.
Man. And I know that over the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking a lot about Sudamericana, Libertadores, and everything going on in South America. Topic number 3, the incredible renaissance of Liverpool in Uruguay. Please explain yourself, sir.
So for those who don't know, Liverpool from Uruguay won the championship in 2023. All right, they got it done. It was fantastic. And then in the next season, 2024. What usually happens in Uruguay, every time that a smaller team wins a title, it gets dismantled. And you know how many players they took from Liverpool champion in 2023? 7, including the goalie. We got their goalie. Universitario got their goalie. They got the best center back. They got the best enemy. They got the 2 strikers, not only the first one, but the second one. All 2 strikers, they went out. The coach, they went to Mexico. I mean, it was, and then Liverpool went obviously down the drain, almost got relegated. If it wasn't for the enormous amount of points that they got from the previous year, it would have been relegated. So this season, they went into the market, but not into the big market. No, the scouts in Uruguay, they are, like FBI agents, man. They find stuff that you don't know where it is. And they got a couple of pieces. They got an intelligent coach, and they went undefeated for 13 rounds. They dropped 1 in the 14th round, and they won the last one. And they get 1 point ahead above Nacional to win the Torneo Apertura. And I'm telling you this, most likely Liverpool will win the title again. Remember, in Uruguay, they played 3 tournaments. The only country in the planet that played 3 tournaments. Apertura, Intermedio, and Clausura. So, it's just one quick thing about the Intermedio. There were 3 teams. They played the even numbers and the odd numbers, right? So 1, 3, 5, 7 in one side and 2, 4, 6, 8 on the other side. That's how they play the Intermedio. They split the table, and they put the splitter, right? And but there was a problem because there were 3 teams at the bottom of the table with the same points, the same amount, the goal differential, the same everything. What are we gonna do? They couldn't do the draw because of that. So you gotta figure it out some way, somehow. For me, it was easy, right? Because one team had everything. It was exactly the same in points and goals, but they got 1 more victory than the other one. For me, it was just a no-brainer. Okay, that guy got 2 victories. This guy got 1 victory. You go first, you go second. That's it. And I think that's what they did. But eventually, they got it out. And now we got the schedule because it got delayed. It's supposed to get it on Tuesday, but we got it today because of they tried to figure out who was where. And Yeah, we got scheduled for an intermedio out, and we can call it on GOLTV.
Well, I mean, you look at the bottom of the table. I mean, you got 3 teams at 12 points. Miramar has 3 wins. Wanderers have 2 wins. Danubio has 1 win, but Danubio at 1-9. Danubio is 13th at 1-9-5. Wanderers are 14th with 2 wins, and Miramar are 15th with 3 wins. Explain this to me, how you end up with 3 teams with the same number of points, but the team that has the most wins of the 3 ends up
is at the bottom, right?
Well, welcome to Uruguayan football. I mean,
it's crazy. It's
well,
crazy.
yeah, yes, that's a word to use. Yeah, we could use the word crazy, and I think we're But for those that will watch GOLTV, it was Liverpool at 32 points at 9-5-1, only losing once in 15. Nacional was second, losing twice. Juventud lost 3 times with 9 wins, and that was literally the difference: 32, 31, and 30 points in Uruguay. Topic last. Don't mess with Universitario, and this is the direct quote because I read the notes as is. Don't mess with Universitario, comma, oh, don't you dare, capital D in the word don't. What are we talking? Oh, don't you? I feel like the only thing missing is you wagging your finger in public, or it's like, oh, don't you dare.
Yes.
So why are we not supposed to mess with Universitario, sir?
So remember last week I told you the story of the group of supporters went to the pitch to try to bully the players and that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it was after the game was over. You know, it was like, I don't know, say about 10, 15 people. It wasn't a big group. But anyway. So the disciplinary committee of the Liga Uno decided to put a fine on Universitario Deportes for 6 units is like blah, 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 like I don't know, like $10,000 fine.
Okay.
$10,000 fine. But also tonight is the Clásico. It's Universitario Deportes versus Sporting Cristal, 9 p.m. prime time, biggest game of the week. And they were going to play at the Universitario Deportes Stadium at Monumental. And they decided that the best way was to play without public.
Whoa.
Right? But guess what? They didn't make that decision the day after the incidents happened, right? Last week, right? No. Made the decision a couple of nights ago.
Oh, no.
48 hours to go. 45,000 tickets sold already.
Oh, my God.
And president of Universitario Deportes went on every single media outlet trashing the disciplinary committee. You can't do this. He came up with a bunch of different solutions. Right? Don't ban me for this, ban me for that. I mean, identify these people and ban those people from live from the stadiums. Whatever you want to do, but don't do this because I got commitments. I gotta pay things. We're gonna lose like a million. It's like a million. It's roughly. Every Universitario Deportes game is like $1 million on box office. All right, it's $1 million per game. $1 million per game. The Universitario brings in revenue. So he went that the decision. The disciplinary committee sent the press release on Monday. On Tuesday night, the chief of police. The chief of police in Peru sent a press release. If something else happens because of you closing down the doors for the stadium, something happens outside, it's your responsibility. We're going to blame you for whatever happens outside the stadium because of you closing the doors. So you better change your decision because we're not going to have enough people to cover what's going on outside the stadium. Everybody's inside the stadium. We got everything figured out. We got how many officers we need, how many horses we need, everything. We got all figured out. But we can't control 50,000 people outside the stadium. All right, so you better reconsider your decision. And on top of that, the president of Universitario Deportes made an appeal to the disciplinary committee to say, hey, give me another find me a double, whatever you want to do, but don't do this. Last night, 10:55 p.m. Disciplinary committee sends a press release. Oh, you know what? We're gonna change that a little bit. You can play with people tomorrow. You can play with the audience tomorrow, but but you cannot play against, I don't know, ATLUTD in like a month or so. So don't mess with Universitario Deportes. We're so powerful, brother. I'm sorry.
Well, just so everybody knows, the juice boxes have Universitario at a -116. Sporting Cristal is a +313, and your 90-minute draw is a +233. What are you calling this weekend?
We're calling that one.
Yeah.
We're calling that one tonight. And then we got the what is this, Uruguayan Championship this weekend. We got the Nacional game, we got the Defensor game, and we got Liverpool on Sunday. Guys, if you haven't watched Liverpool, the Liverpool from Uruguay, by the way, it's got to be Liverpool Montevideo. It's the black and blue, not the almighty Reds. No.
Okay.
Take a peek of that team because they're playing really good soccer, man. Really good soccer.
Well, as always, my friend, it is great to get the education about everything going on around the planet as you take the tour with us and tell us where we're going, even though I don't know where we're going until this is the trust that I have, is that literally you're driving the car. I'm just hopping in for the ride and putting on the seatbelt, and you're sitting there and it's like, all right, you're ready, brother? Here we go. And you just slam it in the drive and we just go this every single week during this time slot. Have a great call with Universitario and Sporting Cristal. I cannot wait to hear how this one gets handled with all the storytelling on GOLTV with our friends at Fanatis, where we get to watch you and hear you every single time out. eventz.co/soccer down here helps out the network, helps everybody see you, helps out us. So no, it's everybody wins. And they get to hear Nino Torres break everything down when it comes to a fantastic matchup where you don't mess with Universitario. Love you very much, my friend. Have a great call. Keep the pipes in prime condition, and we'll be watching. We'll be listening, and we'll catch up with you again next week as we get back into Sudamericana, Libertadores, and everything else going on around the planet. As always, my friend, you are fully loaded.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me, Johnny. We'll see you next week with Universitario winning in Buenos Aires over River Plate. Let's get it done, baby.
That's a tease, no doubt about it. Go get your coffee. We'll see you soon, my friend. Wow. Oh man. Okay, so that's our buddy Nino Torres. Like I said, I don't know literally what Nino's going to send. I literally do not know. I get a notification. Let's see. He sent it literally at 9:57. So literally 3 minutes before he comes on, he sends me what he wants to talk about. And then I'm sitting here scurrying, trying to figure out, okay, what are we talking about? And then it's like trying to figure out standings and matchups and all this kind of stuff. So that's our tour of the planet. So let's see. We go Portugal, we go Europa League, we go Uruguay, and we go Peru. That is where we went this morning with our tour around the planet with our buddy Nino Torres from GOLTV. And we love him very much. And it is fantastic to be able to share the planet with all of you and to be able to learn the planet from him and find out what's going on. Because for me, like I said, it's an education. And it reminds us that as much as we feel like we're at one end of the planet to the other, we're really not. Because like I said, on Thursdays, so to give you an idea, just today in general, we went from here to Cincinnati to talk about FC Cincinnati. Then we went local to talk about the WPSL. Then we went to Peru to find out what's going on with Nino going on around the planet. And then coming up here in a couple of minutes, we're going to catch up with our buddy Niko Moreno and find out what's going on in Major League Soccer with Seattle and everything else going forward. So that literally today on Thursday, we go Cincinnati, Decatur, Peru, Seattle. You tell me what kind of a show does that. Any other show on a weekly basis that does that? You want to know how many? And I'm speaking confidently with my number. That I feel like Jim Herrick in the 30 for 30 in the Survive and Advance 30 for 30, talking about Dane Suttles and Pepperdine in overtime, and he had that many points. 0. How many shows other than this one? 0 can go Cincinnati, Decatur, WPSL, Peru, Seattle. This one. And we can't thank y'all enough for putting up with all of our wandering as we sit there and we educate everybody on what's going on around the planet, because it's always fun to find out what's going on. So when we sit there and there's a conversation that you hear a couple of tables over about something involving, say, Liverpool in South America, or Universitario going up against Sporting Cristal, you said, "Oh yeah, I remember that because I was listening to a conversation that on a morning show about it," and so that's where we are. And so, speaking of going from Peru to Seattle, it's time to go from Peru to Seattle. Catch up with our buddy Niko Moreno, who is styling and profiling, looking as only as he can look. And here he is, as he's busting everything out. How are you, sir, as we break everything down in Major League Soccer?
What's going on, John? SDH family. Excited to be back as always. I'm doing all right, man. It's been a interesting weekend. Lots of soccer to watch. Got the chance to watch a couple of US Open Cup games. A lot of soccer. A little tired. On cup number 2 of Joe. There it is.
Yeah. Well, and I was discussing earlier in the show after the results, and we now know our final 8 in Open Cup and who's going where in the East and the West. How in the blue hell do you only make 3 penalties in 10 in a penalty kick shootout? I mean, obviously we can knock on the door with DC and Charlotte and ask Troy Lesane and Dean Smith how this happens. But you only convert 3 penalties in 10 to determine a winner. DC had a lead. Charlotte took the lead. Garrison Tubbs gets an equalizer. 90 minutes doesn't cover it. 120 doesn't cover it. You go to PKs and you only hit 3 of 10. I feel like both of these clubs should be banned from taking penalty kicks for it should be some kind of penalty kick. It's like you get the penalty kick dunce cap. You get to sit in the corner and you get to wear the pointy dunce cap. You just you're staring at the wall. You don't get to take penalties until you get better at it. And we get to determine when that is. You only make 3 out of 10 in a penalty kick shootout situation to determine who gets to the round of 8. Both of those teams really should never have made it if you're going to be like that in penalties. Almost be like it was with Red Bulls and FCD, where, at least AJ Marcucci comes up big and somebody made like 4 or 5. But when you only make 3 of 10 as 2 teams, neither team should advance, I think.
Yeah, I didn't watch this whole game, but I did see the PK shootout, obviously. And I don't think I've ever seen it before. I've seen it where all the shooters are so good that it goes 10, it goes 12, or maybe there's a little bit of dramatics and, one misses, one doesn't, and then it just kind of goes back and forth. But for all the PKs to be so poorly taken and it still go that far, I mean, it was surprising enough. But I guess it does tell you a little bit, like you said, about where each of these teams are. And I mean, there had to be a winner. So at the end of the day, someone was going to have to go through. And I think that's what happened.
Did there have to be a winner? Did there? Like I said, both of them should be banned from winning and advancing.
Oh, yeah, it was bad.
Just like, no, we'll go with 7. It's like, and somebody draws the straw to figure out who doesn't get to play. So, no, we'll go with 7 from here on out. We're going to look at the weekend that will be in a bit. But when you look at what happened this past weekend with the Sounders, with whom you cover on a daily basis, what sticks in your mind from the previous weekend involving the Sounders and what happened last weekend before we get ready for what's going on this time as they get ready for FCD?
Yeah, look, it was a lot of components that kind of went into the entirety of the week. Let's stick to the rivalry to Portland, a 1-1-1 game, a 1-1 game that I think Seattle comes off with some mixed feelings. I thought they put up a very good performance, specifically to limit one of the best offenses in MLS, one of the most scoring teams in MLS. I thought Anthony came off the field upset, frustrated. That's a good sign for what Seattle did defensively. I thought Felipe Mora got put on a globe and not allowed to get out of there by Yemer Gomez Andrade. But there were moments that could have been better. The one real good chance that Portland got, it's the goal, unfortunately. Santiago Moreno is a guy that, if you give him that much room inside the 18, he's going to make you pay. And he did. But at the same time, I think Seattle continues to get better in their own identity with their own principles. Musovski, once again, not on the scoreboard, but with a goal contribution there. Nice pass to Albert Rusnak. Albert Rusnak puts it away. And look, Albert, for all of the criticism, all the hate, all the people that were upset about him getting a DP contract, the guys looked the par, right? I mean, 6 goals, 3 assists. I just put a tweet of, if you compare him to Evander, to a guy like Forsberg, Acosta, Lucho Acosta. I mean, he has numbers better than most of them, with the exception of Evander, and he's played less minutes than all of these guys. And I'm sure I can continue to go on and pull up other camps that are not contributing as much as he has. So I think the Sounders are where they should be. I think that Phil Neville felt lucky and was kind of hoping to end it at a draw in the last 15, 20 minutes, where the Sounders kind of got on the Timbers team. I think that individual performances were good. Christian Roldan was my man of the match. He was a baller, just all over the field, good on passing, sharp on the ball, winning every duel. I thought that when the substitutions came in, Pedro de la Vega did well. The one guy that maybe fell a little bit short was Ryan Kent. He did not have a stellar performance there. We had seen him be this difference maker, this game changer when he came off the bench. In this one, I think that it was just harder. With some of our friends of Lobby's Culture said that after the game, he mentioned that he had never been in a road trip like this one. 3 games on the road. That's a lot of miles for a guy that's not used to that. Not sure if that's what kind of factor in of why he didn't have such a good game. I also think Portland did a great job at bracing him with a couple of players, making sure that he was always bracketed, that he wasn't able to get into space. But all in all, I think the Seattle Sounders came away with a good point, a 3-game road trip where they won 1, lost 1, tied 1. And I think that's the minimum average. That's the minimum requirement. So they're right on the line. And now they move on. They'll host Dallas, and they'll try to take all the momentum and see what they can do with it.
What the hell's going on with LA Galaxy?
Hey, man, I think that I have come with the LA Galaxy where, like my guys from Boys to Men would say, it's the end of the road. And it's time to let it go. It really is. I do not. I had some sort of hope that they were going to figure it out, at least to make it to the playoffs. But right now, it just seems like even when things go right, they go wrong. They started right in El Tráfico. I'm thinking, we talked about this being a trap game for LAFC. They're going to be able to do it, and they still can't hold on. I just think that there's a little bit of situations that I think we need to talk about. The acquisitions this year were younger. They haven't really come to fruition with Nacimiento and Sabrino. The guys that they brought in, I don't think have replaced those that left. I think that it is a team that has a hard time just managing the game in general. There's a lack of experience to a certain degree. And it almost feels like they're just ready to make a mistake, even when they have the lead. And we've talked about that. Even when they have the lead, it seems like they're just waiting for something to go wrong. And once that happens, everything just goes off the board. So I really do think that Greg Vanney is going to have to do some real soul searching, and he's got to get up here because a lot of it's got to be mental. They create chances. There is talent. You saw it at the beginning of that game, but they're just unable to kind of put it together when it comes to 90 minutes.
And LAG shows the ultimate in support for Greg with a contract extension, and they also give him support in the front office, both not just when it comes to personnel, but in the day-to-day and performance analysis. And so now Greg doesn't have to do it himself. What did you think about A, the extension, and then B, the support that he's going to be getting to help things out on and off the field?
Look, we talked about it. It was going to be compounding your problems if you let him go. At this point, you do get that cushion of that MLS trophy. You try to bring in some continuity. You're hoping that a guy that is experienced, that can develop players, can pull himself out of the hole. And let's say you don't make the playoffs. At least you have a guy that next year you can trust that he's going to figure out where the issues were, and using all those new resources can focus primarily on getting this club in the right direction. I don't hate it. I know that there's been a lot of criticism of why would you do that? There's no point of extending a guy that has the worst start in MLS history. And I get it. The discourse will be the discourse, and people are going to be upset. But I do feel like it is a mature and settled decision for you to keep a guy like Greg Vanney. So I'm with it. I think it makes sense. We'll see how it plays out.
And then last week, when you were with us, we discussed what's going on with Messi and friends. And your, I'll say it this way, your position counselor on the issue with Messi and friends, I'm fairly certain that you probably got a decent amount of heat on it. But when Orlando and when the purple team sits there and they put another 3 on the board, and it's 2 of them are from familiar faces that have been doing it all season long, in Muriel and Pasalic. And then you get an oh, by the way, at 90+4 and come away with a 3-0 win against Messi and friends. It once again shows that there are holes in that back line of the team down in Fort Lauderdale. I know that you don't necessarily sit there and, tap dance on graves or anything like that when something like this happens, but you were not surprised in looking at your social media during the match and after the match. You were not surprised that the 3-0 result for the purple team was the end result when that match was over.
No, you saw it coming. And when you have a team that has as many issues defensively going against a team that is in full form offensively, and you have a Luis Muriel that looks like the Luis Muriel of Serie A, you're going to have a bad day at the office. And that's exactly what happened. Beyond that, we go back to this dysfunction of mental lapses. Messi is arguing about a back pass to Galese, upset, yelling, blah, blah, trying to get the referee to understand people are worried about what's going on over here. Galese, one pass, one full shot across the entirety of your team behind your back line. He has all the real estate in the world to just position himself right in front of goal, sit away. And after the game, the antics, going back and trying to talk to the referees, Messi's putting his frustration where he shouldn't. He should be putting his frustration on the coaching staff, holding his teammates accountable, that defense, trying to figure out what it is that is wrong. You got to be a leader in certain ways. And look, I'm not criticizing Messi, the player. I'm criticizing Messi, the leader. You are the ultimate player in the league. You are the guy that's supposed to be pushing these guys through the thick and thin. You've been great when things have worked out. You need to be great when things don't. So I really do think that there's got to be some serious conversations between Jesus Mascherano and the Super Friends or the Fantastic Four, or whatever you want to call it. Those guys are the ones that need to have an all-player meeting. Hey, what's going on? Let's push it together. Because a lot of those guys that were really good last season, as that Costellar group around that Fantastic Four, Kremaski, Bright, all of these guys, they have, I don't want to call it digression, because, I mean, they're still good players, but they just have seemed to take at least one step back. And that is showing on the field. And defensively, man, you just got to figure out exactly what it is that you're going to do, and whether it's holding your fullbacks back or dropping Bright a lot more. You need to be so much more poised defensively. And that's got to be job one. How do we make sure that we don't concede as many goals as we have, regardless of what it does moving forward or pushing forward or getting in transition? But you got to figure out how to fill up all the holes that you have in the back end.
Yeah, the Gulfstream Galacticos get to the point to where they've re-signed Jordi Alba, and so you wonder who else is going to be re-signed going forward. Here was the lineup last time out against the purple team. Your back line was Noah Allen, Maxi Falcone, Gonzalo Lujan, and Ian Frey. Ian Frey, and this is the first time that I have seen a number this low. Ian Frey, according to our friends at SofaScore, punched a 5.9 on SofaScore. That's in 58 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you take the number of minutes that Ian Frey played, move the decimal point over a slot, and that was his SofaScore rating. Here's what happened with Ian Frey. 1 pick, 1 tackle, 1 error leading to a shot, 2 of 6 on his ground duels, lost possession 9 times, 2 fouls, was fouled once himself, 18 of 21 passing, didn't have a cross, didn't have a long ball, had 1 shot off target. And that punched a 5.9 for Ian Frey in a lineup that had Yannick Bright, Sergi Busquets, Allende, Messi, Alba, and Suarez. So you had the Gulfstream Galacticos out there. You had them all out there. And you had Allende, Bright, Allen, Falcone, Lujan, Ian Frey, and Oscar Ustari going up against the purple team. And they took you out back. I mean, they took you out back. They grabbed that ruler that your granddad has, one of those old school rulers, that like 18 inches long that has the metal strip across the top. They took you out back, and they took you with that ruler, and they made sure that you were remembering what it was like to get hit by one of those things. I mean, that I did not realize. I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize it was that bad, at least with one of your outside backs punching a 5.9 going up against the purple team.
Yeah, and it could have been 5 goals. It could have been a bigger beating with that same ruler, and it wasn't just because, I don't know, Orlando just didn't finish. They weren't as clinical as they should have been. But you talk about the starting lineup, you talk about that back line. When I first saw it, I'll admit, I said, well, you know what? I don't mind it. You're realizing that Jordi Alba cannot be a fullback that pushes forward as much as he does because he leaves so much room. So you play him more like a winger, sure. No Allen's going to be a stay at home. You're going to have 3 most times when you have possession. But even then, because Busquets had such a hard time moving and covering space, when Alba would get caught up top, there was so much room for them to push. And then Ian Frey, you talk about, I'm not a big stats guy. I'm trying to diversify myself. So I did get an app, and I'm trying to be a little bit more open to just that. But the eye test, Frey was the worst player on the field. And he got mollywopped by Angulo. I mean, Angulo took him to school, and it was consistent, and he couldn't hold on. And even in distribution, Frey couldn't really do it. So those are the things. Those are the players that last year, or if you go back to Tata, they seemed like they were at a different level, right? When they first started with Tata to when they progressed with Tata. Noah Allen, I thought, I don't want to be unfair to him. He's had a decent year, and he's come to play. I'm not going to blame him for the goals that happened, but at the end of the day, it's a collective, is what we've been talking about. And if this team doesn't realize that they got to play for the team and not for Messi or for Busquets or for Alba, they're going to continue to have this sort of issues. But don't let me get out of here without crediting Oscar Pareja and the team and the amount of talent that you have coming off the bench. You were bringing in Ramiro Enrique from off the bench, bringing Duncan Mawar off the bench. This team has so much talent. And Martin Ojeda, MVP candidate, has just been lights out. So I think Oscar's doing a great job. he understands what he needs out of this team. Doesn't need the ball. We're going to be effective. We're going to be direct, and they're a problem. And we talked about this. They were going to be a problem.
All right, let's go into the week that will be and take a couple of matchups that we have off the top of our head. Let's start with yours, since you're the first one in the barn. 3 o'clock Eastern time, so it's probably a 3:10 unless it's the super hyper mega pregame show from our friends at Big FOX. You're a minus 222 at home hosting FCD. FCD plays in the midweek, and they have to go from one end of the planet to the other. They're a plus 585 after losing to Red Bulls in Open Cup last night to take on Seattle at a minus 222. What do you think?
I think Seattle has to win. I think that they are the big dog in this one. They're definitely heavy favorites, in my opinion. You're coming from that 1-1 draw that you knew that you could have maybe done more on. Now you put those frustrations into Dallas. I saw the game between Dallas and Red Bulls yesterday. I was slightly surprised to see Petar Musa play 90 minutes. He had played 45 the game before that, first 45 since April 12th. We saw a little bit of Pamako. So there are some players that are getting back for him. But I feel like Dallas more than likely will rotate, or they will at least have a team with, a lot of those guys missing. I know for a fact Lucho Acosta will not be playing this game as well. So to me, it's all on the Sounders. They got to play their game. They got to, right off the bat, control the tempo of the game. They got to be the protagonists. They got to put this Dallas team on their heels. They do have some players. They've been able to kind of put things together. Pedrinho is a guy that's kind of become a real creative guy, one of those guys that could really, aside from Acosta, of course, be one of those guys that could be all over the field. He's shifty. He's good on the one-on-ones. Petar Musa is going to be a problem, as he always is. So this is not a dud. This is not a team that's just going to come and just sit here against this Seattle Sounders team. But to me, when I look at the form currently that the Sounders are playing on, I think that Ryan Kent is going to want to put that Portland game behind him. He's going to want to show up. I think Pedro de la Vega, a guy who did not start against the Timbers, he's also just dying to get out there, score some goals, figure it out. I just think Seattle has all of the tools to win this game, and they should win this game. At home, that's where things start off. You need to be good on the at home. They've done okay on the road, but at home is where you want to make it a fortress. I think that they have started to do that once again, and I think that they'll start here with Dallas.
You got to take care of business at home. LAG goes to San Diego to play at Snapdragon. LAG's north of plus 400. San Diego's a minus 169.
Woo! Okay. Oh, man. Like I said, I hate to let it go, but it's a natural. No, I'm just saying I'm done with LA Galaxy, so I'm not taking LA Galaxy. I would love to just say, hey, this is what it is, but until they show me otherwise, I think San Diego, they have already put teams with defensive issues against the ropes. I feel like they're a very direct team. I like what they do offensively. They simplify their game. So I think San Diego wins this one, but I don't want to take the juice boxes. I'm going to say San Diego will win, and I'm not sure if it's going to be a high-scoring affair either. I feel like, if anything, LA Galaxy is going to want to stay in this game, so they might hold back their instinct to just push forward. But I think San Diego takes it.
All right, and so since we talked about Messi and friends and the Gulfstream Galacticos, they've got Philly next on the list, and they are a road dog at a plus 211. Draws a plus 267, and Philadelphia at home is a plus 114.
Ooh, man, that's an interesting one. And I only say it's interesting because I thought that Atlanta should have at least equalized against Philadelphia. And yes, I know that Philadelphia didn't put all their dogs right off the bat. But Inter Miami, if anything, there will be a proud team going into this game. And Messi would not be ridiculed much longer. I feel like he sees that things are kind of going to start spiraling out of control after the game. I know he talked in MLS in Spanish, and he kind of talked about what needed to be done and the way they needed to figure it out. I believe it. So I like this game. I like the 211. What's the goal compost looking like? I'm guessing it'll be low.
All right, so let's find out and see what it lays out to here. Over and under. Let's see when it changes. So 2.5 is a minus 166. 3.5 is a plus 145. So if you're thinking it's going to be 3, it's a minus 101. 3.5 over under is a plus 145. So is it going to get to 2-2? I don't know if it is.
No, I don't like it. I don't like it. But I will say this. I feel like Philadelphia doesn't necessarily have the tools in the flanks to make Miami as uncomfortable as they can, neither in transition. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and go with Inter Miami in this one. I think that they'll be ready to go with a chip on their shoulder. Maybe that's what they need, is instead of playing by being the team like that runs around like the Beatles all around just in their tour, they should be more playing with a chip on their shoulder. I think that they will against Philadelphia.
All right, last one I want to talk to you about is obviously Atlanta. Atlanta hosting FC Cincinnati on Sunday Night Soccer. Atlanta is favored, slight favorite, at a plus 145. Draws a plus 258, and FC Cincinnati on the road is a plus 166. So FC Cincinnati is a slight dog. Atlanta United is a slight favorite on Sunday Night Soccer.
Yeah, I like Cincinnati in this one, man. And again, I hate to say it because I want Atlanta to do right by Atlanta fan base and do right by the talent on the field. But Cincinnati just at this particular moment in time, they just seem to have guys that are going to be able to kill this game sooner than later. I'm going to say, and I'll go about the first half. I feel like Cincinnati would already be on top of Atlanta. I like what I've seen out of Denke, out of Evander. I like the way they push numbers forward, still by keeping a pretty decent shape. I thought that Columbus game was very interesting. It was a 1-1, but it was an entertaining 1-1. It's not a 1-1 that I'm like, man, what did I just watch? No, it was pretty consistent. It was back and forth. It was a chess match. I like what this Cincinnati team has to offer. And Atlanta, as much as I see what they want to do, and in the last 10 minutes of that game, they could potentially have gotten an equalizer against Philadelphia. You won't have that opportunity against Cincinnati. Against Cincinnati, either you put them on their heels or they're going to be on you. And I feel like that's what's going to happen in this one. I see Cincinnati winning this one by a couple of goals, unfortunately.
All right, so what's going on at Pulso Sports and at Sounder at Heart that folks need to know about as we head into a very, very busy weekend before we get into even more schedule compression?
Yes, the best one in Pulso Sports right now, and it will go up in about 2 hours, is a tactical talk with Andy Rose, the assistant coach, obviously part of Brian Spencer's coaching staff. I like to call him the defensive guy. He's the one that works in the set pieces, works with the center backs, works on the build outs. So we had a really good conversation. If you have 20 minutes of your time, because it's a long one, go ahead and check it out. You will not be disappointed. He goes into strategy, difference between playing with a 3-man back line to a 4-man back line, talks about the young guy in Stuart Hawkins that is in the middle of all these center backs. He has all this talent, but cannot get any minutes. We talk about Kim Ki-hee and the surprise he's been coming in as an experienced player. And now he's kind of pushing, or not kind of, he's definitely pushing Jackson Reagan for his spot. Jackson Reagan should be available this weekend. He's going to want his job back, but it won't be easy because Kim has looked really good. So we talked to Andy Rose about that and so much more. Go ahead and check it out. It's going to be up in about 2 hours. And then, of course, on Friday, we're going to have our usual What We Learned This Week with Jeremiah in the Sounder Heart Podcast Network. And then on Monday, of course, kickoff with Lobbin Scorchers at 8 a.m. Pacific time through 9:15, 9:20, depending on how long we go.
As always, my friend, great to see you on Thursdays. Enjoy the action this weekend. We'll be keeping an eye, and we'll be catching back up with you this time next week in the middle of schedule compression, where it's going to be a quick turn talking about all kinds of stuff. As always, love you very much, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Have a good one.
All right, that's Niko Moreno, Pulso Sports and Sounder at Heart. And so we've had a full show today. We go from Cincinnati and Laurel Pfahler to catch up with Coach Campbell Chapman at Decatur FC. We go down to Peru to find out what's going on around the planet with Europa League and South American soccer and Portugal with our buddy Nino Torres at GOLTV. And then we find out the tour of Major League Soccer with our buddy Niko Moreno. So let's get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, find out what else is going on before we get out of here on a Thursday. Once again, remember tomorrow. Yes, it is. It is always a wonderful day for some SDH because, by the way, the USL show is on notice because next Tuesday at 10:30 Eastern time is their time to be on to break everything down for the month that has been in USL Championship and USL League One. So they've been summarily warned. Next Tuesday, 10:30, Kaylor Hodges in the USL show dropping by for their monthly appearance. And we'll find out how Mark Briggs is doing in Birmingham as the head coach of the Legion, among all the other things. All right, so let's get into the gossip, the rumor, and the innuendo and everything else going on around the planet. And so here is what we need to find out about. Once again, as always, we're looking at the gossip, and apparently Arsenal might be looking at Rodrigo, perhaps, possibly, maybe, perhaps. So we'll see what happens there involving Rodrigo and everything that is attached to our friends in the Premier League. So Arsenal exploring a move for the Brazilian forward who could leave Real Madrid this summer. Once again, that's from Florian Plettenberg and our friends at Sky Germany. Leverkusen's Florian Wirtz expected to choose between a move to Bayern and Liverpool in the next 10 days. Barca want to sign Luis Diaz, who has 2 years remaining on his Anfield deal. I would love to know how they're going to pay for it. Liverpool have looked at Lyon winger Malik Fofana as a possible option if Diaz ends up leaving the club. Napoli and the Fire, meaning Chicago, leading the race to sign Kevin De Bruyne. And the thing is, thanks to Talk Sport for that, but that's a big old giant duh. Because, frankly, the Fire have his dibs rights. They picked him up from Messi and friends. But given the choice, I have heard, and like I said, this is just published reports and whether or not there's any truth or attachment to them, that De Bruyne's wife doesn't want to come here to the States, and so it might be leaning toward a move to Napoli. But given the choice, would you want to be in Chicago in February and March, unless you like cold weather and playing in cold weather and training in cold weather? Or would you want to be in some place that's a little warmer of a climb? I mean, if you think about it that way, yes, the dibs rights for De Bruyne are in Chicago. And I'm sure that Chicago and Greg Berhalter would probably want to pay $11 gazillion and everything would be fine. But if you're Kevin De Bruyne, would you want to go spend February training camp and then February and March in Chicago? I think not. Like I said, and literally it's just looking at the geography of the deal, not looking at desirability. I'm not looking at club makeup. I'm not looking at anything like that. I'm just like, would you rather be in Napoli in February and March, or would you rather be in Chicago in February and March? It would take one of those sweetheart deals of biblical proportions, I think, for Kevin De Bruyne to go to Chicago. James McAtee at City is the target for Bayer Leverkusen, also being monitored by other Premier League clubs. Chelsea determined to hold on to Enzo Fernandez despite him being linked to Real Madrid. Liverpool have offered their Spanish center back Weldy Lucky, a 19-year-old, a new 4-year deal. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Fiorentina president Rocco Commisso is set to meet with Moise Kean to try to convince him to stay amid interest from a number of clubs. And Victor Gyökeres, we talked about Victor Gyökeres with our buddy Nino Torres. He's told sporting teammates he's unsure where he'll be playing next year. Linked to Arsenal and Manchester United. That's courtesy of Canal 11 via the other 4-letter paper, the shiny one. So that is your rundown of all of your gossip. Remember, today it is Europa Conference League, and so you've got that to look at. And so the what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it part of the program. From our friends at Soccer America. Clausura, the final, the first leg, America and Toluca is at 10 o'clock. TUDN Univision, they are simulcasting. ESPN Plus has your Europa League playoffs in the Eredivisie at 12:45 and 3 o'clock. AZ Alkmaar, Heerenveen, and FC Twente and NEC. Promotion relegation playoffs in the Bundesliga at 2:30, Heidenheim and Elversberg. The women's game, DAZN has World Sevens football all day long. and it is like literally all day long, and it's like 45 minutes worth of match. Canadian Northern Super League, Montreal Roses and AFC Toronto. That is tonight at 7:00, and so that is ESPN Plus there. And so obviously we're also waiting for the Europa Conference League final. So let me write that. So Conference League final. When is the Conference League final? They just pushed that back to the 28th. So basically next Wednesday, 6 days from now, is when the Conference League final is. We'll see if Betis and Chelsea's numbers change, but right now Chelsea's a -130, Betis is a +359. So that is your rundown of everything here today. Tomorrow, we'll get you set up for the weekend. Quick reminder, the matchup, we're still waiting for an official answer on what is going to be happening with Atlanta United 2 and with Orlando City B. So we'll keep you abreast of everything going on there. But obviously, tomorrow it is going to be Decatur FC, and Drew and I will be there for that one. And so we'll be at Decatur FC and Union 10, 7:00. And however you consume your Decatur FC-ness, Drew and I will be there for that one. But obviously, we'll keep you up to date with everything going on with Atlanta United 2 and the matchup with Orlando City B that is scheduled for tomorrow night, 7:30 at the Fraction. But when we know what's going on with that, we'll let you know, and we'll keep you posted on that particular matchup. So it is tomorrow. It is scheduled Orlando and OCB and Atlanta United 2. It is Decatur FC and Union 10. That's at 7:00. And so, like I said, I'll be with Drew in Decatur for Decatur FC, but we'll keep you posted on Atlanta United 2 and with Orlando City B. So then that means that Saturday is Saturday. We all get to consume Major League Soccer and all of our favorite leagues however we wish. And Sunday Night Soccer, Atlanta and FC Cincinnati, that's a 7:10 kick. And we are efforting our standard folks from Major League Soccer to kind of lay everything out for you and find out what they think about Sunday Night Soccer with Atlanta United and with FC Cincinnati. So that's another go-around here at SDH AM. And as always, thanks for dropping by, as you always do. Thanks to Laurel Pfahler. Thanks to Campbell Chapman. Thanks to Nino Torres. Thanks to Niko Moreno. And thanks to you for dropping by, as you always do, here every single day on SDH AM. Don't forget to download and listen. You can listen to the show back in its entirety on the audio sections. You can listen to the segments in their entirety. We chop that up and we present that to you as the day goes along. But it's always great to be here for SDH AM for the rowdy man who has passed out at my feet because he's had a long day. He's had a long couple of days. And so for him and for everybody else here at the SDH Network, great to see everybody at the Moxie Hotel last night for SDH Network at the Moxie. And thanks to DJ EU and Joe Freihofer for joining me, Maddie, and Jason there. And thanks to Scott Flood and the Flood Project and everybody at the Moxie for making that happen. We're looking to do more of those as the season goes along. So for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. Since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Play it safe, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow here for the Friday edition of SDH.